New York's Urban Search and Rescue Task Force is in Vermont this morning, the latest area to be hit with catastrophic floods.
Yeah, emergency teams also on the ground in Orange and Rockland counties, helping residents recover from those deadly downpours. As Governor Kathy Hochul mentioned during a recent press conference, this is the new normal. And here to talk about the steps New York City is taking to prevent flash floods is Emergency Management Commissioner Zachary Iscol. So good morning to you, Commissioner. Thank you for being here.
Great to be here with you. Thanks for having me.
So first and foremost, can you give us an update on Task Force 1, right? I've been out with them before. I went to the Carolinas with them during a storm once. They are an impressive group of individuals who go out there right away. So how are they doing up in Vermont?
Yeah, so they are an amazing group of individuals. It is staffed from some of our most elite members from the NYPD and our fire department. And so they deployed Monday night. And what's amazing is as soon as something happens, we get the task order from FEMA or we get a request from another state. Within hours, they're at our warehouse packing up and they're out the door. And so they headed up to Vermont, arrived in the middle of the night, immediately got to work. 46 members plus 2 amazing canine working dogs, Taz and Demo. And they've already done a number of rescues, evacuations, and they're really helping support the local jurisdictions and agencies up there. Couldn't be prouder of them.
You know, yeah, a lot to be proud of. Let's talk about what's happened here. I mean, we learned a lot from Hurricane Ida with flooding. A lot of the catch basins, that was a problem. The storm drains, all of that causing massive issues. What's being done now to prevent all the things that we learned that happened during Hurricane Ida?
So there's a lot. So first off, I think you just look at what's happened in the last week with extreme weather in this country, right? We had 8 inches of rain upstate, 9 inches of rain in Vermont. That's more rain in the last few days in Vermont than they usually have in an entire summer season. You have the high heat down in the southwest. Now it's a heat wave going on for weeks. So this is the new normal. And I think a lot of what we need to do is make sure New Yorkers are prepared for these types of events. I encourage every New Yorker to sign up for Notify NYC. You can do it at nyc.gov/notify. You can also go to 311. It's available in 14 languages. There's a lot of major investments being made in our infrastructure. There's a lot of temporary protections. Last year, the city sent temporary flood barriers out to homeowners that qualified for a program. So there's no end to the things that we need to be doing to prepare for these types of extreme weather events.
Yeah, highly recommend Notify NYC because it's fantastic to get the alert. Not only just for storms, but things like alternate side parking and when the
all of it.
It's a great system overall. You know, but an issue, I guess, that's so unique to New York are these basement apartments, right? And we saw during Hurricane Ida some of that flooding and the catastrophic nature of it, losing lives because of it. So what's being done to, I guess, make sure some of these buildings are up to code and that those folks are safe?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and it's one that really keeps me up at night as an emergency manager. We did a pilot program a few years ago out in East New York around basement apartments and bringing them up to code. One of the biggest barriers is just legislation that's stuck in Albany, which is crazy. And it's really about allowing multiple dwelling units. And so that legislation is pending. So we need that legislation to pass. In the meantime, you know, there's a lot of things that homeowners can do around bars on windows, around doors. There are infrastructure improvements that are being made. But look, we can't control the amount of rain that's coming. And so it is really important that New Yorkers are vigilant. They sign up for Notify NYC. And they make sure that they have a plan to get to higher ground when rain comes. You know, it's different than coastal flooding. Coastal flooding is, you can sort of model. Rainfall, much more difficult, and so it's very important that we all work together on this.
Yeah, but when people come and go, they move into the area, move out of the area, you don't really know if you're in a flood zone. What's being done then? Have you updated the flood zone maps to make sure people know?
So great question. So I think one of the things that I think a lot of people miss is that there's 2 types of flood zones in the city. So we have coastal flooding caused by hurricanes, and that's when you have a lot of water pushed in from the ocean. You can go to nyc.gov/know-your-zone and learn which one of 6 hurricane evacuation zones you live in. But there's also flooding that's caused by rainfall. And the fact is the entire city is in a rainfall flood zone. You know, even if you look at the flooding caused by Hurricane Ida, many of the basements that were flooded were outside of what would be mapped or modeled as rainfall flood zones, simply because of the difficulty of understanding where a rainfall flood might occur, because we can't really model for the infrastructure, for the topography, for where the exact rain is going to go, as opposed to when the water's pushing into a place like Jamaica Bay. So very important that people sign up, know which coastal flood zone you live in, but also just understand that with this new normal, flooding is going to occur, and we need to be prepared.
And with that new normal, though, right, there's all the talks about building up the infrastructure in areas like Lower Manhattan, and there are, in each borough there are areas that have that coastal flood area that you're talking about. But this resiliency project in Lower Manhattan, can we speed the process up, and how does that work?
It is
Wouldn't that be
complicated.
great?
I mean, it would be great. You know, I mean, there are so many pieces at work with these large projects, right? We have federal infrastructure dollars. We have the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We have local builders, a lot of different agencies working together. In the interim, what we've done in a lot of communities is our agency with some of our partners had set up interim flood protection measures. So these are things like these large barriers that we can put in place before a coastal storm to prevent flooding. And so those exist all over the city while we get some of these larger projects up and running.
Commissioner Iscol, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Appreciate it.